Inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, comedy on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And without further ado, it is just such a high honor to bring back somebody who I know this is not the ideal situation for her. She likes to be out amongst her peers and her mentors and elders playing music on the bandstand or just performing or having a good time. And these days, like most people in this country, she's sequestered to, the confines of the apartment that she's in. She's doing a lot of delectable cooking with her mother, and I'm sure staying in touch with people via technology. But it's always her aura is so nice and strong, and she's a delightful person, and such a beautiful honor to have her back. Boshra AlSaddi, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Wow, what an intro. So you're my first person that I've spoken to that's not my mother in a minute, so forgive me if I
feel so
blown away by that intro.
Well, no, I mean, it's true. So, you're funny. You reach out to me. You're like, yo, you interviewed my friend Stuart Bogey, and I didn't send you the interviews. I will after this, but most of I've interviewed I shouldn't say that. Our mutual friends, I've done 2 interviews with Scott Metzger. I've interviewed Jonathan Goldberger, Stuart Bogey.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, I got to send you I've been on this trip. It's just fun, but the Bogey interview, that was, the Metzger interviews are amazing too. I'll send you those because it seems to me that, you are... The collective of musicians that you are friends with, quote unquote, on new media, they are really pretty, I don't know what the right word is. I mean, they're definitely in the cosmos. They're not really operating on this. And so it doesn't surprise...
They've all, it's not longer than me, but I've been here for 25 years now. And, my musical community I love it. I'm very fortunate.
These guys aren't afraid. These guys aren't afraid to go off. These guys aren't afraid to go off into the deep end. Is what I'm saying. How have you over time been able to determine authenticity of musicians on the bandstand, people that you want to play with, choose to play with, versus people that maybe have a big name or they get big crowds, but it's more of just like a wank fest,
Yeah. Oh, I'm not a fan of that. No, it's always really the music. It just comes down to that. It's so simple, And I found taste is a really big thing, or the way you can curate something. It's not always the flashiest players or musicians that have the most to offer necessarily. So when you hear the music and it speaks to you, then that's all you need, And oftentimes those are the people that have stuck around and honed their craft and just doing it forever. And after a certain amount of time, I started to notice patterns in who I saw on the street and who I saw playing out in the world, and they weren't the hustlers or the networkers necessarily, but the people that just persevered in spite of everything, which is a lot when you're trying to do it.
Well, Wes Montgomery used to walk down the street, and every musician he saw that had a instrument in their hand, he'd stop them and shake their hand. Mm-hmm. And he was also, I believe, an iron worker, or he worked heavy labor and had a big...
Bill Withers, airplane mechanic.
Withers, Withers. God, look at you dropping these names. It's just.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, it's rest in peace, Bill. He had an impact on all of us. But how are you going to, in your mind, because everyone's going to have a different impact, but when we are able to, the greed is so insane because people at the highest levels of corporate fascism, they want to get the economy going again at all costs. So it's not, people's health be damned. I understand you don't want the economy to go into a depression, but it's pretty insane what's happening here. And I don't really think that until we can go to nursing homes or send our kids to school, or go to places of worship, or like a spiritual sanctuary, like a concert hall with people, then we're really not going to be back to normal, whatever that means.
No.
But
no, it's a bit of a form of denial at the moment, or a way of like processing. It's a collective processing of what's happened. Which is a pretty dramatic rupture in every system that we have in place that we depend on, And I think all of the flaws are pretty much dangling out in the open for us to see. And I mean, maybe the silver lining is that there will be like a mass I don't know what you call it, reimagining?
No, you would call it a revolution of consciousness.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is this, because like even in Wuhan, where the virus started, they are still now just beginning to say, if you are healthy, you can go out. So it would be nice to get some truth, but in this age of no attention spans and this hyperactivity and the inability to really access the spirit, people are just I mean, but here's my question: is for Boshra, how are you going to approach the authenticity, and how are you going to what are you going to do different? Not even differently, but what has changed from your point of view since you've been in this sequester bubble?
This is actually interesting because I haven't really told you everything that's going on in my life 100% in the last couple of interviews. One of the things that's been going on that's been a big change for me is I've gone back to school in a part-time capacity.
Wow.
Because I haven't been able to tour as much because of my physical stuff. And I've been talking about going back to school for biology for like the last 10 years. And I started making moves in the last artist of some sort, and just like a hemisphere change in my brain that's been happening kind of slowly. And I guess with all of this going down, my interest, which is always in microbiology and bacteria and viruses and the micro world, which I always thought was the future.
Well, this is unbelievable.
So this shit happened, and now, like you called me at a time when I was having a bit of a identity crisis. And when you called, I was like, well, maybe I need to pause and think about this change that I'm about to make. And then, like, a pandemic took over.
Holy cow. Holy cow.
And now I'm like, I'm doing my classes online.
Right.
And about to release a record and can't tour it. Wasn't going to tour it anyway, but I can't now. So now I'm pressing some vinyl and releasing in the summer, and then going full-time, hopefully, to become a scientist or a researcher, microbiologist. I still have to settle on the specific field, but I know the direction. So that's what's changed for me. I feel like maybe that's where I should be focusing my energy.
Yeah, I am completely at odds with this. I'm totally in disagreement with this decision. I understand. Truthfully though, I'll be honest with you. I was transcribing an interview I did with Aaron Magner, who is a great keyboard player, really brilliant guy, and here he is at University of Pennsylvania, Ivy League school. Kind of like a seeker, like all over the place. And at some point they're like, listen, man, you gotta choose a major, And I don't know if you know this band, the Disco Biscuits, but they've been around for a minute. And he sat down in West Philly with his friend one day, and he went to every kind of department and was poking around, and like nothing spoke to him. And eventually a friend of his said, are you kidding me? He's like, why would you do anything else but music? It doesn't, you live, eat, breathe, sleep music. It's a no-brainer. So he joined the music department, and he took theory classes, and then he joined this band, the Disco Biscuits, they were doing some pretty vigorous road touring at that time. So his music professors let him go, and he somehow made up his work along the way. And I guess they had a pretty long tour lined up, probably over a month or so, probably in the spring semester of his senior year at UPenn, and he made the decision to go on tour and never graduated from University of Pennsylvania. So, but the point is, so like that's why I do my show, because like that to me is like the essence of it. It's like, everything logically says great school, you get a degree, you get a good job, you're on your way, whatever. And he goes, you know what? I'm on the road. I'm accessing all these new places. I'm meeting all these new people. There's all this beautiful stuff going on, and it may never happen. I mean, when is it going to happen again? Look at what's happening now. We've all been locked down. So he did that. But the truth is, if microbiology truly speaks to you, I mean, if that's what you are, if I mean, I guess part of me just knows that you have such a beautiful spirit that it belongs on the bandstand. It would, and so, but I mean,
Well,
there.
it's been kind of slowly transforming, and one of the things I'm realizing is that I can be more than one thing at the same time. And this has been, I think we talked briefly last time about like the hemispheres in your brain and how I think we got kind of into it about how I'd lost the use of my upper right arm, and so it was becoming more left-handed, and it was triggering this response in the other side of my brain.
Sure.
More holistic, and I was becoming kind of more curious about other things that I'd always been curious about but never pushed, including the sciences, which is something I used to make slides when I was like 7 years old, and all of these interests I have are real and deep and far-reaching, and they're just taking kind of their own time and manifesting as I get older. So, and I do think that what regardless of what I end up doing, it's going to inform whatever creative pursuit I'm into in such a great way, because at this point there's a lot of, which goes back to what we were talking about before, how all of these flaws and cracks are becoming really clear, and the music world for me is still fraught.
What is before, what were the flaws in the, I mean, was music in some sense no longer feeding you spiritually to a degree? What I'm saying is, to see you in a lab coat with these, I mean, this doesn't make any sense to me, but that, I mean, again, it's, if you are inspired, if it speaks to you, then that's beautiful. But what are the flaws? What do you think at the people that ultimately, the grinders that we talked about, the people that just show up and gig, and they're the ones that kind of stand the test of time, and I put you in that mix because of our mutual friends. I mean, what are the flaws that in your mind that have been exposed to the more, I don't know what the right word, enlightened musicians, or the ones that are tasteful? What do you think has become exposed to you guys?
In terms of the structure we're working in?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, exactly.
Yeah. I think, of course, I've come to terms with music being commodified. We're in a capitalist society, and that's just inevitable. But the injustice of that breakdown is it's just more and more extreme. And, the middle class has disappeared in every aspect, including the musical world. Like, there aren't any middle class bands. There's the 1%. And there's, there are certain strains like the indie world or the pop world, but there's no there's no room for a band that just wants to make a livelihood touring and doesn't necessarily need to be played on the radio, but still needs a livelihood by performing their music that's consumed. So it's mostly the way it's consumed that's hard, and then touring also is no longer financially viable for most bands unless you're in that 1%. And the pie gets broken down more and more, and Spotify is terrible in terms of how they pay their musicians out. So all of these things make your focus is on trying to hustle instead of on making art, and it's really just frustrating, especially over many years when you see this. Usually when you invest in something, you get a return. And in this case, you keep investing and investing, and it's like you get less and less of a return. I mean, it was easier to be in bands in the aughts,
Right.
You could send a press kit and someone would get it and listen and give you a shot. And now, like, I don't even know. Like, the gatekeepers are just like more and more elusive and more corporate. You know, like the guy determining the playlist on Spotify is not like an audiophile. He's a corporate dude that like wants to find the right algorithms.
I mean, I just have not heard anybody. I mean, that is just perfectly articulated.
Oh, cheers! I thought so much about it.
Well, it's true. I
Yeah,
mean, this is. I mean, for me, it's like. I mean, it's different in a band. It's like a family. You know, it's like there's many personalities, and everybody has to kind of be driving in the same direction on the bandstand, and you know. But it's really, for me, it's. I can see it. I can feel it. Obviously, I've been off the road for a minute. I feel thankful that I was able to get on the road so much the last couple of years. But yeah, I mean, it just speaks to this this zeitgeist of. I mean, is it really like when you say the 1%? How many bands do you think actually even wind up in the 1%? Maybe like a few dozen, or I mean, what? Who?
Yeah, I would maybe several hundred. You know, I
Yeah,
don't
just
know.
like the
I don't know
1%. Yeah, just like the richest people. It's like 400 or 500 millionaires or something. That's what makes it.
and that's not to denigrate those musicians at all. You know, that's
No,
not just
no.
but it is a very small number, and it's, you know, if it were viable for a bigger chunk of people to at least have a livelihood. I'm not even saying like, you know, have 20 Porsches in a garage in Manhattan. I'm saying like just enough to get by.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, I agree. Listen, and by the way, for the record, I mean, this whole to me, as tragic as it is, again reveals this fact that we are. I have no. I appreciate everything I've been given in this country, in this life, and I just talking to people like you, I recognize, you know, people like, you know, how your family that they come here because they want a better life and they don't want to, you know, there's a lot of struggle in the world, but this whole capitalist system, it's a joke. And this has become very evident now where you just, you know, you continually, it's socialism, it's welfare for the rich, but it's capitalism for the poor. And that's the part.
Been the new mantra.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, and then you have idiots spouting off about how great a capitalist society is, and it's like, well, all the major industries or all the major companies, well, it was the banks 10 years ago, and now it's, you know, we're a service. I mean, and that's
the airline.
yeah, and you know, I mean, Gil Scott-Heron, truthfully, was I mean, he has this song, B Movie. I'll send it to you. It's like from 1980, and he's talking, and he literally says we are no longer a producer, we're a consumer. That was in 1980. So that's like 40 years ago, and the trajectory's only gotten. So here's the point: is that the long-winded part of this is that, I mean, you're thinking on the other side of this, what can I do to have a career? Not a career, just what can I do to pay the?
Well, I want to be clear, like that I'm not my long-term goal has nothing to do with a job necessarily or making money, because I'm on disability and I'm okay. I mean, I'm on barely anything, but it's freed me up in a certain way, having this disability, to just decide what I want to do.
Yeah, totally.
Do that.
Totally.
And not, you know, not be constrained like so many people are by like the, you know, just making that money. So I'm just thinking of like what I can contribute, and I think like the things I love about music are not that different from the things I love about the natural world, and that's like seeking out patterns and finding solutions and finding beauty, and it's to me it's kind of all the same, just a different arena.
I mean, I can't believe I haven't seen you. I can't believe I haven't seen you on the front lines of the COVID-19 virus. I mean, if you're this I mean, you're really, but you're more into the like the behind the scenes kind. I mean, you want to like identify, but back you want to do more hard science? I mean, is that
research?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the right word. Thank you so much. You're
Yeah.
such a scholar. Listen, we.
Oh yeah.
But no, you know what? Bless you, because you know what? I'm glad that I think that again, I'll just push back in my own way that if you are receiving a gift, again, I wish you all the physical strength in the world and recovery. But great, you're getting some disability payment, and that to me only speaks to the fact that you just need to continue to channel your true nature musically as much as possible, because a lot of cats. The truth is, the biggest problem today is that you have artists having to wear 8 different hats, and they have no opportunity to actually work on the art itself because there's all this other stuff going on that they have to be concerned about, mainly feeding their families or whatever it is. But that was not, I mean, you were able to live a very modest, decent existence as a session and touring musician at a certain time in this country. And for major artists, it wasn't a one and done kind of 15 seconds of fame, you're done. It was, no, we'll cultivate you we'll give you 3 or 4 albums to I mean, it was a better system. And then all those people were taken away, and it became this opportunity. Well, you can just do something, garage band. You can do everything yourself, which is true. But I mean, not everybody's good at everything. In fact, most artists need to be focused directly on the art itself. Otherwise, it won't come out pretty sterile,
I mean, most artists are terrible business people. At least I am.
Terrible, just terrible.
Having to be savvy in that way, and then also having to be, a producer and pretty decent engineer and a graphic artist. I mean, these are I've done all of those facets, like making videos, taking the photos, all of it, every aspect, and it's a great joy actually to have complete creative, booking a tour yourself, finding a booking agent, finding a label, gatekeepers, it's just endless. And at the end of it, you're like, when am I going to work on this song? So I'm hoping to get back to that place. I mean, I'm in kind of quarantine with my mom, and I'm growing plants, and I brought my bass and some recording stuff. And
is it easier to play bass right now? I mean, with your arms, with your arm?
It's the only thing I can do.
Dude, by the way, the video, I want to tell you that we're sending you the video. It's my girls come back tomorrow. We're going to get the video together for you immediately. I'm sorry I haven't sent it to you yet.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah, we're all going to dance for you. Yeah, no, it's beautiful.
I've gotten an incredible response. It's been, it's actually like the highlight of every day when I get a video from someone. That song. It's going to be a good video.
We have a game on this program called Name That Voice. I don't expect you to know who this is, but something about it just made me want to play it for you today. So we'll listen to it and then come back.
Okay.
Well, one of the things about being in Angola was while I was there, James Black shows up.
Really?
And there was a band. There was some, I was busted for 2 joints. There were lots of musicians being busted for possession of narcotics, narcotic paraphernalia and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that's how James Black came in possession of narcotics. James Booker was there, and he got out not too long after I got there.
Oh my gosh!
And there were cats, like the guys in the band were like really great. There was the prison was segregated then. Everything was still segregated when I went in there.
Yeah.
Not only in the prison but everywhere in the South. So there were the white musicians and there were black musicians. And the majority of the white, there were a couple of white bands, but the white bands played country western and Cajun music. And with the black bands, we had one black band that was rhythm and blues funk band, and we had the jazz band.
This is unbelievable.
And one white trumpet player from New York who had the misfortune to get busted in Louisiana.
Yep.
Was a bebop player, so he didn't want to play with the white bands.
Was it Chet Baker?
No, no, no. It was a guy named Russell Sweet.
Okay, so he didn't want to play the country western Cajun stuff. He wanted to hang.
Right. He wanted to play play with the cats playing jazz.
Play the cats,
but that was against the law. So if he got caught playing with us, he'd go to the dungeon.
It was a law within the prison that you couldn't.
No, that was a law. From what I understand, in New Orleans, it was against the law for black and white musicians to play together.
This is not. I mean, whether it was in a pub or a social anywhere.
Well, they weren't even supposed to be in the same place together.
So, but he was busted. He was busted there for drugs, or he was busted because he played.
Yeah, drugs. There was some kind of drug charge.
Okay, so then he came to jail and he was playing with the cats, and then he got busted again.
Well, he would play with the cats when we could sneak him in, and have him play, allow him to play a few tunes with us, and here come the man, you better get out of here.
I dig. Oh my gosh! So he went to the dungeon.
Yeah, if he got caught. But anyway, that part of the trip, like, okay, I got busted for the 2 joints, but at the time I was also a heroin addict, and the Tai Chi and the idea of the Tai Chi and any kind of spiritual help I could get was part of my trying to escape from the trap of the addiction.
Right.
And that was the beginning of it, where I had time away from the drug, to look at how life could be without it, if I could get my freedom from it. And at the time, being in there for the couple of years, I was clean, but I hadn't gotten away from whatever the hook was that was in me, because as soon as I got out, I went back to doing it. And moved and went from there really in a couple of days to New York. And that's where I was seeking help. I went through a bunch of different programs, drug programs, and then the guy told me about, I was living in Brooklyn, there's a Tai Chi class there at the Academy of Music. So I went over there and talked with the teacher and started with the Tai Chi there. And again, it was just part of my spiritual journey in trying to get my life back. And it has helped me over the years, and I still practice, I still do the Tai Chi and the Qigong, and it's another spiritual connection, thing that's related to everything else. It's like playing the music is kind of the same kind of energy as doing the Tai Chi, or the same.
Well, that was you're hip to the Neville brothers.
Yeah.
So that was the only Neville brother I've gotten to. I shouldn't say that. I've gotten to 2, but that was Charlie Neville, a great tenor sax player. His son Khalif is a really great keyboardist. But
Wow.
yeah, it was long, and I mean, there's so much in my head, but I just wanted to ask you about, he was in there, he was busted for 2 joints, and he spent 5 years in there, but he was obviously doing harder drugs. And I wonder about you, like, you're growing plants and you're cooking with your mom right now, but what kind of spiritual cultivation did you use to not allow the hooks of fear to pervade you when you were first having a hard time with your physical situation? And
what was my Tai Chi?
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. I think about that.
You're not somebody. So you're not. I mean, you're not. So it's, I mean, because it's not like you're somebody who's got some sort of silent meditation practice. I mean, I'm just curious about the practices that.
No, I'm not. I'm not like I have a really hard time sitting still and.
Me too.
Quieting my mind, but the only time that I'm able to do that, honestly, is when I'm just being creative, like whatever. That's the thing that always gets me through, and whether that's cooking or working on a song or a drawing or a painting or growing these little seedlings that I'm just staring at all day because because I'm in here.
I know.
Or like, and to me now, this like new road of learning, like non-subjective information, and I've spent my whole life learning very subjective information. So it's just like pattern making and pattern seeking and being creative, and that is what Tai Chi is, and it's really flow. It's like finding your flow. My way is definitely not to sit and meditate and listen to ambient music, even though I love making it and I love listening to it. It's not like my particular path. Mine is it's more kind of frenetic and manically creative.
Yeah, no,
whatever
it's spot on. It's so, I mean, it's exactly the way I channel it as well. I mean, I try to have some. I don't know what the right word. I try to meditate, sedentary kind of thing, but I've actually learned to throw on like really cool, like, you know, blues and jazz. Like I don't need to listen to. I mean, Zen music is cool, but I'd rather listen to music that helps me actually relax, and then I find.
Well, it seems like you relax by actually like getting lost in the music, as opposed to having a music help you get lost in yourself.
That's exactly, and
yeah.
that, you
and
know,
they're both totally viable ways of like stilling your mind. And I just figured out a new one today, which is it's like instead of watching paint dry, I was watching plants grow and like engaging in plant time.
I think that's so fantastic. I mean, there's that Stevie Wonder album, The Secret Life of Plants. You know that? I mean, you got to.
Yeah, I love that record.
I mean, you're dwelling with plants right now. It's remarkable.
Well, when you can kind of escape into their timelines and stop your, because human beings I am particularly, but I think human beings are a little bit frantic because our technology is like so much further ahead than our intellect and mind.
Yeah,
so we're always in a kind of status of like catching up or something, or not being. And this is what everyone's forced to sit still at the moment. And it's, I think there must be some kind of beneficial effect in the face of all the horror of this thing.
Has it gotten really real for you, Boshra, in the sense that like, you know, recognize with coronavirus?
Pandemic?
Yeah, because like, it's not really real for me yet. My folks are in Stony Brook, which is not very far from where you and your mom are, but.
I mean, I'm in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, and I'm going back and forth to my apartment in Manhattan every couple of weeks. But it's a hot spot.
I just say,
sirens,
I mean, like
there are sirens all day in Brooklyn.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'll be honest. There are sirens here too. Not like a city, but you hear every time. I mean, it's real, and I just want, you know, you are, even though I've not physically met you, you know, you are, to me, a really strong beacon of light and an intuitive person, and we are, according to our government, heading into what is going to be Pearl Harbor or 9/11.
Yeah.
And I want you to talk about how your advice to people to look towards the light and to recognize that we are that the tick-tock time doesn't really exist anymore. In fact, the time cycles of plants, it's fascinating that you're dwelling in that, because, I mean, you know, a sprout it could happen right away, or it maybe takes 2 weeks, or, I mean, it takes a long time, but it's going to take a long time. And, you know, I feel like even though you're a little frenetic and manic like me, you know, you seem to, because of your experiences in your life, you have perspective on this, and I'm wondering about, you know, you are right. You're sitting right in the middle of this hot spot with so much energy and nowhere to go. So as we approach this sort of, I mean, this is sort of, I mean, all I'm saying is, I mean, we're in this for the long haul. I mean, we want things to turn around. We're used to, 32 inches of snow on the ground, then it melts away. We have some flooding, but, everyone's back to normal again. But that's not what this is. And I just wonder what your advice is to people who are beginning to lose their minds. I actually think in the long run, and I pray I don't want anyone to pass away, but I just think that the carnage of the mental illness, and that is going to be in the long run very much worse than the physical components of this, because people are not
the trauma of this is going to have like far-reaching.
The lack of patience, you talk about planting seeds in our society. I interviewed Dr. John a few years ago, and he's like, we used to have ice chests, like where you'd go and you'd catch your fresh fish, you'd cook your fish, you'd have seasonal growing seasons. And now we plant a seed, and then we plant another seed, and then we plant another seed. And how's your mind supposed to focus? How are you supposed to allow anything to germinate? How are you allowing anything supposed to grow? And to me, and I guess I'm just going to stop. I'll shut up right now, but I just want to say that my belief is, is that this is Grandmother Earth, another line of Dr. John's, that's hemorrhaging right now. The Amazon is the lungs of the planet, and it was on fire. And
it feels like end of days. It feels apocalyptic.
And
so many different things.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that like people, they and yet they want to control so much that they want to go back to normalcy, and it's so far away from that. And I wanted you to.
I think that's a coping mechanism. That's temporary, because this is all just started happening, and it's been about a month in New York of processing what it means and like what's going to happen after. And I think that the way to get through it is look at it as a light shining on everything, and putting everything into relief, and showing us like what's in the nasty nooks and crannies that we haven't been able to look at. And now we can, because we're forced into this mode of kind of do or die, our capitalist tendency shouldn't extend into our morality and into our humanity. And I think people are a bit in shock about how deep it's gotten, and how this like 40 to 50 year, I don't know what to call it, this wave that's been getting bigger and bigger of just like consumerism with zero compassion. It hit a wall, and it hit a wall in our planet. It's hitting walls everywhere, and I think it's a reset that you can't ignore. It's like you just can't ignore it. And there's like a lot of mourning that goes with that, and a lot of grief, but there's also like a bit of hope about some kind of rebirth, and maybe like a zeitgeist shift that's going more into like a holistic approach to how we all live together. That's what I think.
Well, no, but I want you to talk. No, but this is. You're right. This is the crux of it. Is you are. So many people that look at the word. Yeah, we cut down trees. We cut down the Amazon. Consumerism at all costs. There's no contemplation. The inequality is at an all-time high. Regular people can barely get by, so they don't even have time to really open their hearts. So this callousness develops. But so many people.
And Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, so many people, especially in the Big Apple, they value their self-worth through their work and the money they make, and that's the definition of success. And I've been off the grid for 9 years now, and for better or for worse, none of this has really fazed me, because my world went upside down, but I wanted to go there. I wanted to lead that insecure path. So I wasn't caught up in any kind of materialism or kind of stuff. And now people can't go back to work, or they feel like, so Boshra, I want you to talk to people. Tell people about your self-worth. Why do you love yourself?
Goodness me, what a question.
Yeah, because you got to love yourself if you're going to show compassion. And I know you love yourself, and you've overcome so much. So it's not like people are like, oh, woe is me, pity me. I'm not going to make, I'm not going to be able to get my sixth Porsche. What the,
Yeah.
You talk
Well,
about.
I mean, my mom always told me that it could always be worse, and that's kind of the perspective of like zooming out. So that's all I can say is like zoom out, because if you don't live in a war-torn country, if you're not worried about what you're going to eat, if you're, if you have a roof over your head, if you have access to health care, all of those things, that's a lot to be grateful for right off the bat. And like I think all of those things are now like embedded in what we feel entitled to and what we deserve, except for health care, of course, or education. But I think this is the mode that we all are getting shaken out of, and that's probably a good thing. And the only way through it, honestly, is gratitude, because entitlement is just going to make you miserable. It's going to make you miserable. You're going to be chasing that shit your whole life and like never be satisfied.
I have one more. So why do you love yourself?
Because I'm alive and full of love and pretty decent cook.
Yo, by the way, are you cooking like traditional Syrian food, or like is it like Philly cheesesteaks or something?
Oh no, it's like mountain food from Syria. I've been wanting to make a cookbook with my mom forever.
Oh, please get that. What are you talking about? Mountain food? How is that? I mean, is it like is it spicy? Is there curry to it, or is it?
No, it's not spicy. It's actually a lot of dairy. We've talked in the past about my religious history. My family is from a group called the Druze.
Oh, my God! Thank you for reminding me that that is the cosmic thing. That's right. Thank you.
It's like mountain food, and a lot of it is like sun-baked yogurt that's like then integrated into these like lamb broths and like cheese, homemade cheese, spinach pies, all kinds of stuff. But we've been chefing every day.
Chefing, I love that. I never heard that term. Yeah. So, oh man, I'm so glad you love yourself. We have one more voice to play, Boshra, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
I've had a lot of friends, and I can't think of any enemies, and in retrospect in my life, I can't tell you that they were all any race or religion or sex.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Or gender. And so from this, I've come to understand, okay, that it's the character of an individual, okay, that you need to pay attention to. And ultimately, the character of yourself, okay? Once we begin to focus on that, we automatically become 100%, or maybe 90% less judgmental. Because we realize that we cannot even uphold the standards that we believe should be upheld.
Absolutely.
Well, how can we expect that of anyone else? If you're trying to evaluate your relationship or the positivity of your relationship with another individual, or the benefit of your relationship with another individual, what does their race or belief system or age or gender preference have anything to do with that? It doesn't, because you can have positive and negative. You can have negative experiences with anybody, with anybody, including your own family members, including those closest with you. And then you can experience random acts of kindness from absolute strangers.
I assume you know Gil Scott-Heron.
Mhm.
So that was my second interview with his major writing partner, Brian Jackson. So those guys did a lot of albums together. Brian still plays in New York on occasion. I'm, of course, before all this went down. And I look at our connection, that's what he was talking about. Just on free will, reaching out, unconcerned, non-judgmental, looking to connect in a spiritual fashion. And I just wonder, even though you're really marinating in this quantifiable, data-driven science, you love that stuff as a researcher, how much you will allow non-logical thinking to factor into how you move forward in this new normal.
How I let non-logical thinking factor into this new normal?
Yeah, because what I'm saying is like, so my neighbor, in this little pod that we live in, I have my two daughters, and then there's two other families that have two daughters, and they're all roughly around the same age, and it's quite beautiful. You see the essence of true, they are girls, first of all. They're not boys, but you just see this unbelievably beautiful picture of life when they're all playing together. And then there's a woman next door to one of the families that's like, let's just say she's cranky. And she'll come out and put notes on my friend's door, screenshots of what social distancing means. And kids should not be playing in the parking lot here or being together. And she's lecturing she's just not a happy person. So my point is, okay, the non-logical part of me is like, I have to homeschool my girls now every other week. Okay. And that's a daunting task. Although my older daughter is like you, a total beyond genius. So I actually don't have to even help her. She doesn't even need my help. I work with her more on I help her in many other ways, but not with work. But the point is that I'm not going to, like, I told my neighbor she freaked out on the cranky neighbor because of her sort of passive aggressive mentality, basically saying, these kids could be super spreaders. And basically what she was saying was, I'm a vulnerable person.
She's got a point. Cranky or not, in terms of like guidelines and the virus spreading, like she does have a point.
Well, okay, that's okay, and that's right. That's the logical, what we've been told, and what I believe is true. We are not if we're going to go outside after a long day of exercise, of work. My daughters, I'm okay. I'm okay with my daughters playing on their bikes in the parking lot. Nobody's coming into this cranky woman's house to talk to her. We have to survive. So you can
wait. So the cranky woman is saying she doesn't want them playing outside at all.
She doesn't want them. She claims that they're unsupervised, and that's just not true. I'm out there all the.
I see.
But that's
She's cranky.
She's cranky, okay? And so but the point is that even the mother of my children says, don't let them play with other kids. And it's like that, I don't tell her this, but I'm not going to deprive my kids of socialization because we need to survive. We are all in survival mode. If I'm not going to go out, I don't know if I have the virus or not. I don't think I have no symptoms. But all I'm saying is, maybe this isn't the best. Maybe this isn't the best example, but I'm just saying that, like, I can't always adhere to. I have to look to the light, and we all have to self-preserve, and nobody wants to hurt anybody else. But my God, I am not going to deprive. I'm not saying every day, and I'm not going to have my kids touching faces, and but. We are all in this together. And unfortunately, I guess I'm just riffing here. I'm just, that's the non like logically you'd say no, we must stay inside. We must always wash our hands. We can't talk and see anybody else. We have to practice. But I mean, if you saw what
I mean, I've gone through this with people in New York who have different perspectives until recently. And now everyone's pretty much on the same page. And kind of chafing about how to handle this stuff because it's a classic thing of like data not being what you want to hear, and you see it play out with Trump and Fauci on TV, where Fauci will tell you what's going on, and then Trump will kind of try to lubricate it with some.
Yeah, he's like you can wear masks. I'm not going to, but you can.
Yeah. But Fauci's the one with the hard information, so that stuff is hard to process. The reason Trump reacted that way is because he's kind of like a child, and we're all childlike in our reaction of I don't want to hear this terrible news, right?
Right.
Because that means I have to alter my behavior. But the hard facts are that even if you're asymptomatic, you can very easily spread it to someone who's vulnerable, even if you have zero symptoms. This is something we know now. So your cranky neighbor may be right in the sense that we don't know how contagious this is. I think it's more contagious than everyone originally thought. And now that the guidelines are changing so that they're saying everyone wear a mask when they go out, this stuff has deep-reaching repercussions because this affects how we interact with each other on a super primal level of just touching, shaking hands, being close. And
Absolutely.
Nobody wants to hear that. It's really depressing, but it's the truth right now. It's a fact. And it's a novel virus and there's no vaccine. So, this is our only way to fight it is to stay apart. And that's really crazy. And that I think, I don't know how it's going to change us, but it's definitely going to change us. And the new normal is, I don't know what, me with my mom all the time.
Oh, man. I wish I could get some of that. I wish I could have a couple of meals with you guys. That would be great, but not not right now. Boshra, I just want you. Is your father still alive?
Yes.
Where is he?
My father's actually a doctor. He's in rural Georgia, Alma, Georgia.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and they just had their first case in his hospital.
What kind of doctor? What kind of doctor is he?
He's a general surgeon.
So he's on the front lines, or in theory?
He's in theory, but there's still 7 or 8 states that still have it.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, come on. I mean, this is what's in the cognitive dissonance is. All I'm saying is that I just would like to think that, because I know there are vulnerable populations, and I am very respectful of that, but I mean, everybody's coming at this. Listen, we are coming at this as a way of saying we want to all maintain our strength and survive. And I mean, I can just. It's frustrating to. I mean, it hasn't happened to me directly, but I just know that, when the temperature starts to rise. I mean, down here too, it's starting to cook already into the 85 or 90 degrees. But somehow, I mean, there's going to be a lot of unintended consequences. But I don't. This is the whole conundrum of it is, if we're really all moving together in one direction, then why the heck are 8 states still having people come to houses of worship? And
because we're not.
And so
there's a general, it's been building for the last 30 or 40 years, and most particularly in the last 4 years, a general kind of contempt for science.
Right.
Remember Al Gore? Remember how he was laughed out of the election? And was Al Gore wrong about anything? He was not. He was right about everything, and people made fun of him, just like people initially started making fun of the idea of quarantining and wearing masks and being paranoid and calling it a hoax. And then, a bunch of people from a congregation get it, and then 2% of those people die. And it's no joke, but I think people need it right in their faces to accept that it's happening. And like I was a bit skeptical, and then 4 people I know got it in the last week, and thank God everyone's fine. But like, this is not a ghost.
Right.
Like
That's that's what I was saying. When has it gotten really real for you? You just answered the question. It has gotten real.
Yeah. A bunch of people I know got it and had to quarantine, and Adam Schlesinger just died from it. From Fountains of Wayne, and
yeah. Well, I mean,
man. And he was 52.
That's right. Yeah. Well, and then in truth, it's just so many musicians that I've interviewed, Ellis Marsalis and Mike Longo, and I didn't interview Bill, but I've this thing has no. It's completely unpredictable, and Boshra, let's pick up on this conversation really soon. I always it's always good to hear your voice, and I thank you.
Likewise. And if you want to just to end on a happier note, there's an interview with Bill Withers floating out there somewhere that's incredible. I think it's the only one he ever really did, a long one. If you find it. It's very life-affirming and wonderful. We get your mind out of this Groundhog Day feeling.
Yeah, well, you helped me do that too. So yeah, bless you and your mom and all your family. Stay very safe.
Thank you. Bless your family too. You take care.
We'll send that video along right away.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
All right.
Thanks, Jake.
Bye, Boshra.
Bye.
We'll be right back with Heather Tsai right after this.
On no one else. Coming up the hard way, I've got to save myself.